Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unknown. One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is I get to meet a lot of interesting people, and tonight's guest is no different. I've got Lewis with me, and Lewis had a really strange Class A encounter on a property in California. This creature, he was out one night, stumbled on this property where he's had several different encounters, and a lot of strange things happened. But this creature broke this tree while running away from him, snapped this thing like it was nothing. A lot of different strange things. He's had a lot of different weird stuff happen, from vocalizations to strange invisible type creatures on the property. He's caught a lot of the stuff on camera, audio, things like that. And we're going to be getting into all of that. But I just want to say thank you for being here. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. If you've got an encounter or a mystery you want to send to me, you can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. But let's jump right in the story. Lewis, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to have you on here. I know you got a lot of interesting stories and you've done a lot of cool stuff, but why don't you take us back to your very first encounter and walk us through that?
Okay. When I was little, my uncle was in the military and they were doing maneuvers out in the mountains, and he told me that he saw a Bigfoot up there. And that was when I was like probably 8 years old. And it always stuck with me for years and years. And just like around 2010, I was watching Finding Bigfoot, and I saw, I don't know, a few episodes of Finding Bigfoot. And then I got online because I heard on one of the episodes something about his website. So I checked it out, the BFRO, and I saw they had a sighting around my area, and I thought, that's really cool. I'm going to go see if I can, something can happen for me. So I saw it was on the La Jolla Indian Reservation, and that was probably about 40 miles from where I lived, and that's in San Diego County. I know, it's kind of crazy, San Diego County, right? Bigfoots. So I went up there, and come to find out, you have to pay to be in there, and I couldn't pay every time I wanted to go Bigfoot, and I wanted to go a lot. And the sighting was the guy was walking down a trail, and a Bigfoot came up and was crouched down on the trail that he just went down. And he felt like somebody was watching him, turned around, and it was crouched on the pavement on the trail. And it actually left a gift for him and then took off. And so that intrigued me a lot. And so I went back home and checked the map, and just to see where would be a good place for me to go. And I've been up in that area quite a bit before, but never thought there would be a Bigfoot in that area. And so I just kind of followed the San Luis River back up the mountain. And then I noticed it crossed the Highway 76. And then once it crossed that, then it cuts into the woods, and it kind of shapes like a pie. So from the highway and like this, it's like that. This is the main road, and this is the service road, and there's a gate there. And then as it goes farther in, the pie gets wider. And then at the other end, where the crust would be, is another road that goes the backside of Palomar Mountain. And right beyond that is the Lake Henshaw Dam. And that's where the water comes from, is that lake. So I got my stuff, and I headed down there to, sorry, my neighbor is doing some work over there. So I got my stuff, and I went down there, and I went underneath the bridge, and I set up my little structure or whatever to camp out. And I planned to be there for 3 days. I told my ride to leave, and I didn't want nobody to know I was there. So I stayed there for 3 days. I went down to the water, came back up, go down to the water many, many times with my other dog. And nothing ever happened. So I was kind of bummed out, So I put my stuff at the top of the hill by the road, and I was waiting for my ride to come, and I was getting bored. So I walked across the road on the other side of the bridge. And so now the road's on my left-hand side, and I can see the guardrail. I can see down the road, and nothing's coming. And I'm looking straight down to San Luis River. I'm on the other side of the bridge now, and I see a tree. It's kind of obstructing my view to see the rest of everything else. But I see the water and a little bit of the the ground on the other side. And whatever was down there that obviously was watching me for the 3 days, um, saw my legs and my dog, and it turned, I guess, to run off and hide. Well, it hit a tree and it broke the tree down. It was so loud. I thought a car flew off the bridge and hit the tree. I looked and I'm like, I didn't see a car. And so I ran across the road and I threw my other bag down on the other side of these huge rocks they used as barriers. There's a bunch of them. So nobody drives down next to the bridge. So I hid those and I went walking. I walked for about 2.5 miles to get to this little picnic area. There's a phone there because there's no service there. And so right when I got to the phone, my ride came. And I'm like, wow. So I was really intrigued at that point. I was like, I got to come back, even though I'm scared. This is what I want to do. So I called my uncle. He doesn't know anything about me doing this stuff, and he's not a believer that I know of. We'd never talked about it. And so I told him, hey, there's a place I want to go camping, and we do camp a lot. And I found a new place we can go. He says, all right, let's do it. So on my birthday, a week later from now, it was in December. So everything's darker, colder, wetter. And it was December 6th. And then we came down, the ride dropped us off. We went down where I heard the tree break. We went on that side and went down into the flood zone where if the dam opened up, busted open, it would flood that whole area. And now this area has never been maintained, so there's a lot of down, sapling trees, whatever, and then leaves and trees and leaves over decades and decades. So it'd be hard walking in certain areas. And so we found a good spot that didn't have a whole lot of poison oak. And we're right next to this wall that back in the day must have some structure there. And it made a waterfall. So it was a brick wall there. And it's very old. And so we went down there and we started breaking sticks to make a fire. And we built up all of our sticks, that we needed. And we made a A-frame tarp shelter and it kind of sloped down and put a stick down the middle so it divided us where we're going to sleep at. So it got pretty dark, so we set our fire up and we got in our shelter and we're just sitting there on our elbows and we're just talking. And he tells me that he hears somebody or something talking beyond the waterfall. I mean, he has really good hearing. My hearing's not that good. So I'm like, really? And I know, by listening to all the videos and all that stuff, that how they talk, like jabber, you know. And I go, well, what's it sound like? And he described exactly like what I know, right? And I'm like, so he's not lying that he's listening to what they sound like because he wouldn't know, you know. And so I'm like, okay, that's crazy. So they are here, which was very exciting. And so I ended up drifting off asleep. We both did because eventually it stopped, and we just drifted off to sleep. And then around 11:30, fire went out. It was cold, and I got up and I told him, "Get up, we got to get more firewood because we've been feeding it throughout the night, you know." And so we got up and I put our headlamps on. We got all the sticks together, and we're starting to stoke the fire back up. And I'm sitting down on my knee and my foot kneeling down and facing him. His back is toward the river. My back is toward the service road up on the hill behind me. And he's all like, Lewis, I hear something walking over here. And it's a big, huge rock. The rock is probably as big as this garage. And it's huge. And he heard something walking up to that. And I'm like, what is it, like a deer or what? And he's all, no, it's on 2 feet. I hear something walking. And so I started popping my mouth with my finger, and I did it like 8 times. And then you can clearly hear it walk out from behind the rock. And it took, because remember, I was telling you all the branches going down and the leaves covering it under the undergrowth. And you can hear it walk from that to the river. Took 7 steps, went through the water, freezing cold, knocked on a tree, and then you can hear it drop whatever it was they used, and then walked across the river again, and then now it's on the other side of this big old bush with a tree, and it has a huge rock there. It's on the other side of that. And I grabbed my uncle from behind. I hug him. I'm like, dude, this only happens on TV. And he looked at me like in disbelief. He's like, you're trying to set me up. That's what he's thinking. And that's typical with him, because he doesn't want to be played. You know what I mean? So he went in the tent. So I'm like, I'm not staying up alone. This is my definite Bigfoot, you know, encounter. Like something happened. It was like, so I flew in that freaking shelter out. I'm not staying up, you know, because it's like right there. It's like maybe 10, 15 feet from me. And so I got in there. And so after that, the next day, I tried to walk from that rock to the water, and it took me well over 15, 16 steps, and I was trying hard to get over there, and it was stumbling and falling because of the ground is all, the undergrowth was thick, but it did it very easily to get over there. So that set me off right there. That was it. So then now after everything after that was come out, and something may happen, something may not happen, but I'll just talk about the things that actually happened, and they're just little pieces of here and there when I come out. So I ordered me a trail camera. I tried the trail camera many, 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 many times. They don't like it. So I don't use it much anymore. I did one time, I tricked them. So I came in there and I thought this out, and I worked at the hospital. So when they do sanitizing instruments, they have this aluminum box, which they lock down, and it has a bunch of holes in it. So they put all the bloody instruments in there, and they submerge it into sanitize it and in hot sanitation. And they were going to throw that one away. So I'm like, no, give that to me. So I took it and I put apples in there, and I took it down where the hot zone where they go down all the time. And I tied it on a rope onto a tree. Now this video is on my channel. It's North County Bigfoot, which is a dead channel because I got hacked. And so I put it on the tree, and then I grabbed more food and I put it on this rock in front of the tree, right next to it. So I put like apples and a couple other things up there to attract smaller critters, is what I was hoping for. And right in front of that was a tree, and I put my trail camera there. Now I know the Bigfoots are not going to come out and mess with the camera or the food on the rock. With that camera there, it's not going to happen unless they kill the battery or they make digital pictures on my camera again. Because they make it look like a black and white checkered board, and all of a sudden they don't take pictures at night. Camera. You get it home and it works perfect. And so my batteries last normally 4 months, 3 months, and they will die in 3 days, easy. And so I set it on the tree, and so I left, and I came back, got the camera, took it home, did some checking out the tree. And the tree, you can see on the bottom left, there's two little branches coming up. There's just weeds, and right inside there, you can see eye shine. Whatever was down there leaned over like this and was looking at the camera, and you can see white eyes. And then in the tree in the middle, there's like it's hard to see it, but you'll see an eyeball up there, and the eyeball down at the bottom, bottom right. Well, when you look at it, it's bottom left, and up in the top middle, you'll see an eyeball there, and I have arrows going to them. And I replayed the same footage twice because I couldn't put two arrows at the same time on the tree. So it plays it, shows one eyeball, and then I redo it and play it and watch and see the other eyeball that's up there. But when those two gone, you'll see both eyeballs disappear at the same time. So they are real. They're not like a star, or a whatever it may be that somebody might come up with that it might be. But if they disappear at the same time, then obviously it's something, you know. And then the there was a fox and a possum or something like that that took the apples off the rock, which was triggering my camera to take pictures. That's how I got the pictures of the eye shine in the tree because the Bigfoots weren't going to trigger it. So I had to use the small animals to make it happen. And they kept on looking inside that tree, like, you know, especially the fox kept on looking over there. So you can check that out. It's pretty cool.
You're definitely in a hot spot, man. There's so much activity going on there, and it's really cool that you stumbled upon that and you took the due diligence to find that area. I got a lot of questions, and there's a lot to unpack there. But one of the first questions I like to ask people on my show, man, is how did these encounters, how did that affect your life, man? How did that change you?
It opened my mind to a lot of things. Like I was always, scrutinizing or, I heard one guy talking about an encounter and he was saying, oh, it has a snout and this now. I'm like, yeah, right. And maybe he's mistaking, it's something else. Or, I was a Bigfoot believer, but I wasn't a dogman believer. And that snout thing. And I don't do that no more. I, now that because I was always a Bigfoot believer, but I didn't know, like, after all these things that's been happening to me, I don't doubt anything anymore, you know? And I keep an open mind to everything. Even after my podcast thing, especially then, like yourself, hear a lot of stuff, you know, and then it's all amazing. It's like, and I feel sorry for the people that are not as open minded. Maybe they have that certain blockage that they just can't understand, they can't comprehend my stepdad will never. I mean, one can slap him in the face and he'll say, it's not real, even though he left a red mark.
I get it, man. I talk to a lot of people that are like that, man, and no matter what evidence you throw at them, they're not going to believe it. And I think it comes down to they just don't know what to do with it because it's something that our whole lives it's not supposed to be there. And I am fortunate to be able to talk to a lot of people that have these experiences, and so I think people just don't know what to do with it. But why do you think they're on that piece of property? Why do you think they hang out right there?
Well, it's a perfect spot because you can see if you do an aerial view of it. I'll give you GPS location. There's water there. They don't have to cross the main road to get to the water. There's plenty of deer, plenty of food over there. They have thick cover. I mean, the mom and the babies stay in a really thick area with a real huge pine creepy looking tree and her and the baby sleep up there. And I mean, it's a perfect location. Nobody really will even know. A lot of people go fishing underneath that bridge, and they nobody knows. I mean, after all that stuff that's out, I go out there and there's somebody fishing. I'm looking at them like, you don't even know. You know what I mean?
It does make you wonder how many people walk around with their eyes closed and just they don't pay attention. If they knew, I say all the time, people ask me, what's the one thing that, spending so much time in law enforcement, you learn it's like, if you knew what was driving down the road next to you every day, you'd probably never leave your house, let alone Bigfoot. But man, being that close to all that and not knowing it's there is pretty crazy. I got a couple questions about your first encounter. Whenever this thing took off and snapped that tree, number one, how big around was that tree? And number two, did you feel anything? Did you smell anything?
No, I didn't. I didn't. The day of, I didn't. I thought it was a wash. I didn't feel like something was there. I didn't feel like I was being watched. I didn't even think anything was ever going to happen. I was just going to go home and go back to the internet and look up something else, try to find out another place. And the tree was about, I don't know, probably about that big. It was laying there when I was like, that's a pretty big tree. I couldn't break that tree, and no way.
Yeah, that is, man. I don't think people realize how big these things are, man. And until you've seen one, I don't think they really understand how massive they are, or how big they are. And I think you're pretty fortunate to have all those encounters and be here to talk about it. I personally don't think Bigfoot's your friend. I don't think he's friendly, and I think you mess with the wrong one, you're going to have a really, really bad day. What do you think's kept you safe to this point?
I don't know, stupidity and wisdom. I don't know. I don't know because I think just luck. I didn't feed them a whole lot. I just did it on special occasions, and for leverage because the babies were very crafty. They were little brats, and I would place food out for them and put my recorder in a spot. They would not mess with the food, but they would mess with my recorder, you know. And I did that intentionally. I brought everything. I mean, everything, everything you can think of. I spent over $200 of crap just so they would leave my recorder alone. They were obsessed with it. But I think mostly just I don't know. I think because I gave them the respect and the space they needed, and I only one time I felt dread of not going there, and it felt like I wasn't supposed to go there, and I did, and they told me how to leave.
They definitely will do that. And again, man, there's so much to unpack. Why? Number one, I got this question for you. Why do you think that they mess with electronics the way that they do? Why cameras never work? All that stuff. And then secondly, tell us about that encounter, man, where you had that encounter where they made you leave. I want to hear about that.
Well, it wasn't very long, but the trail cameras, obviously they don't want to be filmed, I guess, and they know what that thing is. And I think they have an energy which zaps, you know, devices, batteries, and stuff. Only if they kind of know what it is, because I bring a recorder and they don't zap that. They don't know what it is. There's no lights. There's nothing on it, and they are obsessed with the recorder. I got great things on recorders. I mean, I got burps. I got freaking one of them sounding like a motorcycle. All this crap. And the mom talks a lot. People say that Bigfoots don't talk unless they're spoken to. Wrong. They do. They whisper a lot, like long, dragged out, airy words, which I don't understand them. But she does it a lot, and she's very fascinated by and obsessed with the recorder. Anywhere I put it, she's on it. But the time they told me to leave is when I felt dread. I shouldn't be there. I went down there. I was dropped off, which was stupid because I shouldn't have went down there feeling the way I felt. And so I went down there and I went right into the spot where they go, like right. They come down that hill, they cross the service road, go down into the flood zone, and they go to the water. That's their hot zone right there. That's their honey hole. And I put my tent right there, and bad. And so it was hot. It was like 91 degrees out there, and I'm like sweating like a dog, and I'm like looking at my watch. Okay, well it's 7 o'clock. This should be coming out pretty soon when the sun goes down. And then right when I said that, huge live branch snaps. I mean, it snaps and then splinters and like there was power behind that. And I got the hint right there. So I took off. I said, okay, all right. I know what they want. They want their space. So I told them I'm going to go down because about a mile down the road is the Lake Henshaw Resort. It's a campground and a trailer park over there. So I sat there for like I don't know how many hours, 4 hours, until I was that get enough nerve to go back. Am I going back too early? Am I going to have arms when I leave that place? So so I went back. I'm here a little early. I'm just going to get in the tent, go to sleep, and I'll be leaving tomorrow. So they didn't bother me. They didn't slap my tent. They didn't do nothing. The baby stayed away from me. I heard the baby over by the water digging holes and then clacking rocks inside of it. So I saw that the next morning, little brats. And so I stayed in there and did my thing. And then I left the next day for sure.
That was a smart call on your part, man. I think they do a really good job about pacing people out when they don't want you there. They definitely let you know Man, that sounds like you were in a really crazy area and have seen a whole lot of stuff. And sometimes I get flack for asking this question, but man, I got to know what do you think these things are, man? What do you think they are?
Awesome. That's what I think they are. They're awesome. But I don't know. I don't know what they are. I just to me they're probably just like a caveman. I mean, they're strong enough to live in the dinosaur days. I don't know. I don't know what they are.
That's a very honest answer, and I think none of us can really know what they are. We can have our educated guesses, but it's very interesting to know and hear what people think, man. And that's really crazy, man. I know that you have lived a very, very interesting life, and this is kind of off topic a little bit, but when we were talking earlier, you were telling me about something that happened with you while you're out on some of your travels, with the bear. Man, if you're open to talk about that, I'd love to hear about it.
Sure. Okay, so I ride my bike across country. It's a bicycle. It was a GT Aggressor mountain bike, to be exact. And I don't like pannier bags. It's too too detailed. You have to pack everything tightly, and I don't do that. I like to throw my stuff in and go. So I strapped a couple milk crates on the bike, one small one in the front, one on the back, and took. I hit the road. And I have a dog. I had a dog back then. He passed away since then, but we did a lot of travels together. And so we went all the way across through California, all the way up to Oregon, and I went to Klamath, thinking I was going to go see Klamath Falls, but there's no falls in Klamath. That was a rip off. But then somebody said, "Well, you got to go up toward Crater Lake and Diamond Lake up there. That's where the Klamath Falls are at." I'm like, "Well, that's messed up." So I had to go that way. So I went up to Crater Lake and I went to the backside. I couldn't make it. So I came back down, got rerouted, ended up going to the Diamond Lake Junction and ended up going 14 miles up the mountain. And once I got the top there, and then I had to go, I went to Diamond Lake Campground and just checked out the lake and got a shower and all that. Then I took off and did 9 more miles to Crater Lake. Beautiful lake. Oh, I'm so glad I did it. It was the hardest ride I've ever had. And so I turned around, came back down 9 miles down, and I got to Diamond Lake. I took a shower at the one of the campgrounds, which are free in Oregon. And so I came back out and I thought, okay, it's getting late afternoon. I got to get some sleep, but I'm going to get on the road and find a place to camp somewhere. And I always disperse camp everywhere I go, even if it's in a town. I'm sleeping on a bench. I'm sleeping in the woods. I don't care where it is. I'm doing the full experience. I'm not gonna get any kind of spoiledness at all. I'm just doing it hardcore the way I want it. So I'm heading down the 138, Highway 138, going down the south side or north side of Diamond Lake. And I'm going down for a little bit. And then I come around this bend and there's a baby bear right there ran across the highway. I'm like, whoa, that ain't no dog. You know what I mean? And you don't see those in San Diego. So I thought, okay, well, baby's gone. And then I went down and I turned right onto this logging road. They looks like they just logged it. Two deer took off into the opening out there, and there's a lot of debris out there. And so I made a U-turn and went onto the dirt road. And I saw this little area where it looked like a logger might have camped out there. Now, perfect spot, flat, and you can oversee the road, and you can look up the mountain right there, and it's pretty opened up because they cut all the trees down, of course. And so I pulled my dog off, and I pulled my tent down and just threw it on the ground, and I heard a snap behind me. So I turned around, and the female of that bear was charging us, flying down the mountain, things flying up behind her because it looks like she's not going fast enough already. You know what I mean? She's clawing everything, and her hair's up, her teeth are snapping. And then she heard my dog bark, and she stopped. I think she thought my black dog was her baby, so she was charging me. So my dog barked, and then right after that, I started filming, and then I filmed her by the tree, and then finally she ended up taking off because I yelled like a Bigfoot and made my dog howl, and the bear's tail tucked in and took off.
Good grief, man, Lewis, you're very fortunate to survive that. I think your dog probably saved your life, man. That is crazy. I mean, that is wild. Bears scare me, man. They really do, and I know that wasn't related to Bigfoot, but I wanted our audience to hear that because, man, you've experienced a lot of stuff and you've seen a lot of things in the woods, and been fortunate enough to live a pretty cool life, man. I know there was probably one more encounter that you want to talk about. So if you want to share that, I know our audience would love to hear it.
Yeah, this one's a cool one. I got it on video too. If you guys want to check it out. A lot of people say, "Well, I want to see that on video." It's all there, buddy. So what happened? I put my recorder out on the. I went out there one time just to throw the recorder out. So I put the recorder out. There's a little levee next to the service road, and right at on the inside of the gate, the service gate, I go in there and I move a couple leaves back, and I put my recorder in there, wrapped up in a plastic bag, and I leave it there for a week. I come back, I take it home, I listen to it. Now I work at the hospital, so while I'm working, I put my earphones on and I listen to all the footage that I had done for the week. So I put them in there and I just run it. And whenever I hear something, I stop, I put the timestamp on there and what folder it came out of. And then when I get home, I'll dissect everything and put it into certain folders. And so that Bigfoot, that baby one, would run up and down the levee. You can hear going up and down and come up and do tapping noises on the ground with a stick and scrape, 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 and tap, 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 and scrape, scrape, scrape. And then all of a sudden you hear leaves moving. So, and then the leaves moving stopped, and then it started again. So when I came back to get the recorder, what happened was the recorder wasn't where I marked it to be at. It wasn't there. And then I got a stick and I was going through the leaves. I found it 5 feet away from my area where I had it. The baby one found it and re-hit it from me. I was still rolled up in plastic bags. And I'm like, what the heck? That's pretty crafty. That's why I call them little brats, because they are little brats, both of them. And so when I went back again, I went around on the bridge and I looked down and I noticed that the mom, when the baby was running up and down, I guess she laid down on the vegetation and left her body outline. And I got that on video. And uh, so I videotaped that, and I was only one by myself. I couldn't do a size recreation because I zoom in and out and all that. So later, I came back with my sister. Now the grass is different now. It's I think it was greener when I went back. So what happened was um, when I did this size recreation, the weeds that are thick on the left side of that body outline are green when I go back. So where it curves and goes up behind me, where the weeds grow and comes over like the shoulder. So that's where the Bigfoot shoulder was. I only went up to the hip bone of the creature on the body outline. So when when I was laying there and my sister was on the bridge, I felt uneasy. And so I was like, okay. So I got up, I had my camera in my hand. So I got up and I took 3 pictures. I went home, got on the internet and checked out my pictures, and I found the male was watching me. And you can clearly see him. He's in where he's standing out inside the bushes next to the tree, and he's leaning over this rock, and his head is out, but he's looking to the side, to his left, looking at me, but he's not facing at me. And where he is bending over at, where his hips are at, comes up to here to me, standing up inside there, and that's where his hip was at, where he's bending over inside that tree, because I went back in there to check it. And and his head is about as big as a 5-gallon bucket for sure, big and gray. He has black solid eyes. Um, it's kind of hard to see anything right here because the you can see his mouth open, but I can't. There's some bushes and stuff in the way, and it's causing blurriness. So so it was hard to see that part. But he had black hair going back and stuff like that. Um, do you want me to talk about that invisible creatures or no?
No, man, we can go for a little bit longer. I'm sure my audience won't complain, man. They get on to me all the time because I don't. Some of these aren't long enough. But yeah, let's do it, man. Tell us the story.
Well, I hope you all like this stuff. I mean, I'm always happy to talk about it. Is it? I feel honored, But so I went out there on my last day, and I was going to travel like he was saying, travel around on my bicycle. So I wanted to go back and say thank you to them and for not killing me and letting me hang out with their kids and stuff, and allowing them to torture me. And so I brought some food, and I felt like I was supposed to bring something for them, like a certain something. So it was hot fudge in a jar, and so and it was seemed like that's what they wanted. I don't know why, but I brought it, and I was doing the video. I have a short video, it's a minute and almost 2 minute long, and then I have a unedited version where you can see the whole part of the video, just so you can see the backstory and why I was filming up there. Um, so I put my camera up and I positioned it toward the mom and the babies where they sleep at, and I kept on telling the camera, you know, keep an eye up there for movement because that's where the babies would come down and make a left or a right on the camera, and you could see them make a right, and then you would see them going by. So I'm showing this stuff, and I didn't know what was up there. I didn't see it when I was there, and I kept pointing up there. And these two little invisible things, there's one is like 3.5 feet tall, and the other one's 4. You can you can see the only reason why I saw it at first because of the light, and so I'm sitting there, but you got to watch it on a big TV. You got to be in a darker room so you can see the blurry. Because when I hold up like that and I go down and I go, that's one, and then why when I do that, he turns around, the one on the left turns around and faces the tree, which I'm thinking that's what he does because his eyes disappear. So I know he's facing the tree, and the other one's eyes are still there. And so when I go down to get the next item out of the bag, the one on the left gets paranoid and takes off. So when he takes off, he turns into a ball of light. The one on the next to him looks at him. So you'll see two lights running at the same time. But once that other one light disappears and he goes around the tree, the other one that's still there will turn and face the camera, and you'll see two white eyes looking right at me. So that was pretty trippy to me because it was a different feeling that I felt than any other time that I've been there for the 12 years, and it was definitely different. And I say it in that other unedited version. I say I feel something's here, and it wasn't the same as the Bigfoot, you know.
That's pretty wild, Lewis. And when you start going down this rabbit hole and you research this stuff and you hear these encounters, I always walk away with more questions than answers. And I think we could sit here all night and talk back and forth and try to figure this thing out. I had a guest come on my show from North Carolina, and he had a really similar experience. He saw these eyes, and long story short, these eyes turned into orbs that hovered above his tent. His dad was with him. His dad saw faces in these orbs. They called on the name of Jesus and they left. But he said that the atmosphere was not, it was not good. It was a very not good experience. And it really shook him, and it just makes you wonder, man, these things, who knows what to do with that? What do you do with that kind of stuff, man? And that is really, really wild. And guys, I've not seen any of his videos, but we will make sure to drop a link down below so you guys can go watch them. And man, I what do you think those were? Like, what do you think? What do you do with that? What do you think that was, Liz?
Well, I have a picture of it. I don't know if anybody knows Ken King. Yeah, he's a Bigfoot researcher too, out of Arkansas. He sent me a picture. and it looks like an owl's head, has the circles also around the eyes, but they're white, and the bottom part looks like a penguin, but it has hands, and they're only like 3.5 foot, 5 foot tall. They said that's one of some of the shorter ones, but they hang out in Bigfoot areas, and they live down and in the tree root areas and underneath the trees, or inside like tree cavities and stuff. And that's what they say. But yeah, there's another guy in another country that he does this stuff, and these little creatures come out, and that's what they look like. I mean, that's the size of what I'm seeing. On because I went back and I kind of put the camera up and I measured the tree and all that stuff, and I kind of get an idea of the sizes. That's why I'm saying those sizes. They're kind of small, but it's pretty trippy. I was very shocked that I saw those.
I don't know what you're supposed to do with this stuff, but the only thing I know to say is there's a lot of things that we don't understand. But man, I really thoroughly enjoyed that. I appreciate you coming on and sharing that, man. If you, which I'm sure you do, but if you have anything else pop up in the future, man, please let me know. We want to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I still got more, but we can do it another time.
We'll definitely have you back on, man. There's a lot to unpack there, and I know that my audiences they'll have a lot of questions, so we'll have you back on. But I appreciate you being here, guys. Thank you so much for being here. That was a great podcast. There was so much to unpack, so we'll definitely have Lewis back because man, there's so many questions that. I don't think we have enough time, and I'm out of coffee, so we'll have to bring him back on. But that was a lot of fun. I love doing this, and I love the fact that you guys love to hang out with us while we do this stuff. And I appreciate all the support. Thanks for being here, being part of this podcast. Couldn't do it without you guys. And man, like I always say, it's so very important, guys. Stay prayed up. We'll see you in the next episode.